Welcome back to the Neutral Zone. Today, we're going to be talking about the Miami Hurricanes as we continue along with our recap series. We're going to be breaking down their 2023 record. But as always, if you're new to the channel, please like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single upload. We also go live every Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern. Join our community and come talk college football with us. It's super fun kind of getting to know you guys and the different takes and opinions we get on a weekly and daily basis. So please continue to do that. But, Dad, how do you feel about Miami and the season that they had?
Yeah, 7-6 has to be considered disappointing. I think there's been so much optimism around Miami that it just never seems, or at least in recent history, has never seemed to actually come to fruition. They started off 4-0 and really had some dominating wins. Outside of the Texas A&M win, which was, I guess, 15 points, which still looked pretty good, really went into the 4-0 start. And I really thought, okay, Miami finally has something. It looked like Tyler Van Dyke had finally come into his own. Much to the way he did, 2 seasons ago when he made such an impressive splash. And then over the course of the next, 7-8 games, the wheels fell off. They lost 5 of those games, 5 of their next 8 to finish 7-6. So again, just not a great season. They never seem to, I don't know what it is with Miami, but they can't seem to remain consistent and play consistently good football. It seems like they're having recruiting issues. I like Mark Fletcher. I think he's going to be a great running back, but he just kind of was splitting carries with Parrish last year, so he only had 105 carries. But he looks like he's going to be the bell cow now, and Henry Parrish will kind of take that over that second role. They did have 1,000-yard receiver, but I don't know. It doesn't seem to come together. Xavier Restrepo, how you say his name?
Restrepo.
Yeah, went over 1,000 yards, but still, it didn't lead to much. Tyler Van Dyke had I guess you say, up and down season. Not horrible, not great. 2,700 yards passing, 19 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. So not the great step or leap that we expected him to take. But obviously, things are going to change this upcoming year. Tyler Van Dyke has transferred out. They got the young man from Washington State, Cam Ward, one of the biggest names in the transfer portal. This is a guy who had really put Washington State, a small school, on the map. Had them playing really good football. He's put up impressive numbers in 2 seasons at Washington State. So if he can come and kind of right that quarterback situation, Miami is bringing back, and I don't want to say a lot of talent. Well, I'll say a lot of talent. They're bringing back a lot of their players from last year. They're bringing back a lot of their receivers. Again, as I mentioned, they're bringing back both of their top 2 running backs. So if Cam Ward and that quarterback position solidifying, that is the difference. Next year could be a very good year for Miami. This is a team that probably quiet as kept is a team that we should be looking out for, that they may make some noise in the ACC next year. Like always, with Miami, it could go one of 2 ways. They were able to get a lot of players out of the transfer portal. They had a very good recruiting class. Miami really kind of stormed up in recruiting classes. They were able. Cristobal is a great recruiter. So they may be a team to look out for next year. What's your thoughts on Miami? I know you probably got a bigger opinion being an ACC guy.
So, before I kind of get into it, they are losing their 3rd best receiver in Kobe Young. He went to Georgia, and I'm happy he's leaving. He killed Clemson last year in route to beat us without Tyler Van Dyke. Van Dyke did miss 2 games in the regular season, the biggest games of the year in Clemson and Florida State. So, those of you guys who are Miami fans, so the majority of you guys watching this video, if this video does what we expect it to do, know that Georgia Tech game, y'all should not have lost that game. And I think was the turning point in the game or in the season. My apologies. Yeah. You, instead of kneeling the ball, you run the ball, you fumble, and then you lose the game. So I think when you look at that situation, then you lose the next week at North Carolina by 10, then the rest of your games kind of didn't really mean anything anymore because you're already at 2 losses in the ACC. It's very hard to climb back and get to the ACC kind of contention when you had an undefeated Florida State, you had an undefeated Louisville at that point, and I believe you had a 1-loss Duke. So it was going to be very hard for you guys to get into the ACC title game. So at that point, there was really not much to play for. And I'm not trying to sound pessimistic, but that's just kind of the way the cookie crumbled this year for Miami. But I will say this, with Florida State losing what they're losing, with question marks surrounding Clemson, and again, I'm a Clemson fan, Miami could be that kind of team to make it to an ACC title game next year and possibly win the ACC. This may just be the year. You bring back Mark Fletcher, like you said. They've had 2 top 5 to 10 recruiting classes in the last 2 cycles. You bring in arguably a top 5 quarterback this year in Cam Ward. I don't see a situation where they're going to get 5 losses next year or 6 losses next year. I just don't see it. I haven't looked at the schedule, but again, they had a loss this year that they shouldn't have gotten for one in that Georgia Tech loss. You lose by 7 to Louisville. You lose by 7 to Florida State, and then you lose by 3 to Georgia Tech. So that's 3 of your 6 losses. Obviously, the other one coming to Rutgers in the Pinstripe Bowl. A lot of the players sat out in that game, so I'm not even going to count that game. But so of the other losses, only 2 of them, I would say, you really weren't in the game. And even, a 10-point loss to North Carolina and a 14-point loss to NC State is not a blowout. So I think they were pretty much in every single game. But again, after that Georgia Tech loss, it was kind of like the wheels fell off. Kids, unfortunately decided they didn't want to play, but it's not the same kind of motivation you have when you're an undefeated team. So, but I do think that this team is going to be a real threat next year. I know before we went on air, you said that they weren't in the preseason. I don't know what
top 25. This was ESPN's preseason top 25.
Okay, yeah, I'm very surprised by that because, like I said, this team is bringing back a lot, and I don't think the ACC is going to be as good as it was this year, and I don't think the ACC was amazing this year. But at one point, the ACC, like for 2 or 3 weeks, had the most ranked top 25 teams.
Yeah, because just off the top of my head, I think North Carolina will be down. Duke will be down. Raleigh Leonard's gone. Florida State, I think, will be. And again, I'm not.
They're going to take a step back. I wouldn't say that they're not going down.
Yeah. Take a step back. I think Clemson will be about what Clemson is. So really, that's kind of Louisville. I think we've talked about, and they might be. But again, this is a Miami team that's returning its top 2 running backs, top 2 receivers, and bringing in at least what we suspect will be a much better quarterback. So when you look at 7-6 last year, they got a young line. You look at 7-6 last year, you just assume based off of those things. And again, there's so many other factors that go into a team playing well, but you assume based off of those things that Miami's going to take it, or one of the few teams in the ACC that we will suspect are going to take a step forward.
I do think that. So just looking at their schedule, they play at Florida in week 1. I think that's going to be a good game, rivalry type game. Then you have Florida A&M and Ball State. I think both those are wins. But then I'm going to name the rest of the schedule. And there's only 2 of these games that I'm like, okay, I can see them losing. So they play USF, Virginia Tech, Cal. Then they play Louisville and Florida State. So I think if they can just go 1-1 there, you're good. Then you play Duke, Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, and Syracuse. Their schedule is
they don't play Clemson next year.
They don't play Clemson at all. They do not play them. So I think they're in a situation where they could finish 10-2 or an 11-1. And I think with the 12 team, a 10-2 conference runner-up could get in. If especially if there's a lot of other teams in other conferences that have a lot of loss and they were beating up on each other.
And you assume that if those games are close and some other things, and they look good in those games. Because again, right now, and I know this may upset some people, but right now, I probably have them as the favorite over Florida State based off of what we know they're bringing back. I know they're bringing back or bringing in DJU, but a lot of turnover in that Florida State team. I probably have them just off the top of my head. And again, this is in January. A lot's going to change between now and when we get to September. But I'd have them as one of the favorites in the ACC.
Yeah, I think they have to be. I think as of right now, they have the best quarterback in the ACC. Unless I'm missing somebody, they have the best quarterback in the ACC, which obviously quarterback play is going to get you a long way, especially when you're bringing back everybody that you're bringing back. Having 2 top 10 classes, I think Miami has had the best recruiting cycle of the current players that are on their roster. Out of everybody in the ACC. If I'm not mistaken, they've finished the highest in the ACC the last 2 years. If not, it's like them, Clemson, and Florida State. So I know overall speaking, the last 3 years, the last 3 cycles, I'm not mistaken, they have the best talent on their roster. Now, obviously, Florida State has pulled from the transfer portal like crazy, so it kind of evened it out. Obviously, Clemson doesn't do that. But I would say Miami's just their their talent on their roster is higher than everybody else in the ACC, strictly based off of recruiting. Again, I don't know how their portal looks leaving out or coming in, but I think this team's going to be really good next year. So if you're a Miami fan, I think 7-6, you kind of just got to brush it to the side, because I would not expect, I don't anticipate you guys being anywhere near that record next year. If that happens, then there needs to be a mass exodus in Miami, because this team, as constructed, should be right around a 10-win team. Especially with the ACC and the question marks surrounding a lot of the teams who were up at the top this year, with the Dukes, the Clemsons, the Florida States, the Louisville. So I'm excited to see kind of how this team shakes out in the ACC. Obviously, I'm a big ACC guy in Clemson. We don't play Miami this year, so it'd be cool to meet up with them in the ACC title game. But those of you guys who are just now finding our channel, please, as always, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single upload. We go live every single Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern to talk college football. The channel is growing tremendously, and so is our community, so we appreciate you guys for that. But we will see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.